It's opening day at Camden Yards in Baltimore, the best day of the year, and the Baltimore Orioles are welcoming in the Toronto Blue Jays for the first game of the season. Pretty big matchup here because both of these teams are going to be fighting for a playoff spot this season. The Orioles are sending out Kevin Gausman on the mound, and the Blue Jays are having Marco Estrada pitch. So here's Gausman, and Gausman is their number one guy. Last season, he had a losing record. He was 9-12, but he had a really decent earned run average. A 361 earned run average is pretty nice for that ballpark. Oriole Park at Camden Yards is a small ballpark, and here he strikes out the side. 1-2-3, no problem. All right, so one thing that I really like about the Orioles for 2017 is I like their offense. They are pretty much stacked from top to bottom. There's a couple little spots that are weak here and there. Their catching position, a little bit weak with Wellington Castillo. They lost Matt Wieters, but let's face it, Wieters didn't really do that much for them last year. He was injured for off and on parts of the season and kind of really struggled in the second half. You've got Chris Davis at first base. He could hit you 50 home runs. Jonathan Scope had 25 last year. He might pop you 30. You got J.J. Hardy, who kind of has lost some of his power over the last couple years, but he's still a really decent offensive shortstop. He might get you 10 to 15 and hit you about, 260 to 280. Manny Machado might win the MVP this year. Now, I picked Mookie Betts in my preseason prediction video to win the MVP, but if I had a do-over, I might pick Manny Machado. You have Hyun-Soo Kim out in left field. This is a guy that the Orioles didn't even want on their team last season. Remember, he had something in his contract where he had the right to refuse being sent down to the minors. The Orioles didn't want him. They wanted him to go to the minors and get better because he had a bad spring. But he really came around and hit 302 last year, so he's going to get a full season. Adam Jones, of course, is a perennial all-star. He had 29 dingers last year. And Mark Trumbo with 47 home runs last year is back. And Pedro Alvarez was signed to a minor league deal. He led the league in home runs in 2013 for the National League Pirates. He hit 22 home runs last year and only 337 at-bats. Now, he signed late, so he'll be up with the club probably in a little bit once he kind of gets his conditioning caught up. And so their offense is really good. They just have a ton of power. They're going to match this season. The thing that I'm a little worried about is I'm a little worried about their starting rotation. If you look at their stats from last year, they had basically two guys in their starting rotation that had an earned run average under 527. 527 and up was everybody except for these two guys, Kevin Gausman, who I've already talked about, and Chris Tillman. Now, Tillman is injured, and he's not going to be back until mid-May, so they're going to be hoping that these other guys can kind of carry the load. And to be quite honest with you, if you don't have starting pitching, it's going to be a pretty tough season. Now, another thing to really like about the Orioles is their bullpen is solid. You gotta love Zach Britton. Like, look what he did last year. An 0.54 in run average. He could have possibly won the Cy Young if traditionally people didn't just always give it to starters. He was just amazing last year. They also have, don't forget about Darren O'Day with his funky little sidewinding motion, and also Brad Brock out there with his 205 earned run average last year. He had 92 Ks in like 70-some innings. This is a really nice back end of the bullpen. So if the Orioles starting pitching can just be average, this team is going to fight it out with, I believe, the Blue Jays for a wild card spot. I think the Red Sox will win the division, and then it's going to go Blue Jays, Orioles, Yankees, Rays. I do think that the Orioles will be over 500 this year. I'm thinking like 83 to 85 wins, somewhere in that range. Let me know what you all think. I'd be interested to know, especially if you're an Oriole fan and you follow them a lot closer than I do. I live in Pittsburgh. I'm a Pirates season ticket holder, so the Pirates are my team. Indians are my number 2 team. I do go to some Orioles games every now and then, but to be honest with you, that's only like 1 to 3 times per year. All right, well, Kevin Gausman, if you've been watching the gameplay here this opening day, he is just blowing the Blue Jays away. Here's Jose Bautista. He actually puts the bat on the ball, but Gausman knocks it down and throws him out. The Blue Jays also have a pretty decent offense now. They did lose Edwin Encarnacion. That is a big loss. The one thing that the Blue Jays have over the Orioles is they have a deep and good starting rotation 1 through 5. So I do think the Blue Jays are probably looking at upper 80s wins. Some people are even picking the Blue Jays to win the division now with some of the injury concerns that the Red Sox have. So, I mean, that's why we play the games. We'll see how this plays out. It's going to be a really interesting season in the AL East. I think that might be one of the most competitive divisions. And by the way, this is a home run out on the flag court, maybe out on Utah Street. That was Troy Tulowitzki going opposite field. And one cool thing about Camden Yards is, you know this if you live in Baltimore, but they have little plaques out on Utah Street. That's the street that runs beyond the right field stands. They have these little plaques with players' names on them and how far their home runs hit. The plaques are placed where the ball's landed. It also has the date out there. So if you look around, you'll see some really big hitters, especially from the 90s. You'll see a couple like Ken Griffey Jr.'s, Jim Tome's, and stuff like that. Pretty awesome. The best time to go see that is probably, I want to say, early, like right when the gates open. If you're not into snagging baseballs, you could do that. Also, maybe later in the game, once everyone is settled in their seats, you can kind of mosey on around out there and check all those plaques out. Really interesting touch that they added to the stadium. Now, I actually went to an opening day at Camden Yards. It was back in 2012. It was April 6th against the Twins. And that was pretty cool because I got to take my daughter, who wasn't even 1 year old yet, and my wife. It was my daughter's first opening day. Also, I teamed up with my friend Nick. He's a ball hawk from PNC Park here. And we went out there. I ended up snagging 8 baseballs that day. So a really good day on opening day. I think the best opening day that I ever had was I caught 13 baseballs once at PNC Park on opening day when the Rockies were in town. I want to say that was 2010 or so. Anyway, we got a guy on second base here. It was a ground rule double, and he's going to come home to score, and it's a tie game. Now, if I can just get the lead, I can turn it over to that lights-out bullpen. Now, it looks like the Blue Jays are going to make a pitching change here, bringing in Mike Bolsinger. The Orioles bullpen is really good, but I'm kind of torn because Kevin Gausman has like 14 strikeouts already. That one was almost a home run. And look at this. Machado forgot how many outs there were. I got messed up there. I wasn't paying attention. I went and thought there was 2 outs, and man, that hurts. So it's still 1-1. Big brain fart on my part right there. Let's see if Gausman can continue mowing these guys down. They're starting to put some contact on the ball, which isn't that good. Not getting all the Ks. I will get some guys up in the bullpen here pretty soon. Not quite yet. Well, maybe I should get him up sooner because that one's gone. That's going to land out there in the batter's eye. There's nothing Adam Jones could do about that one. I know he likes to rob home runs. You saw him in the WBC, but there's no way you're bringing that one back. That one was gone by about 50 feet at least over the fence. Here's Machado. By the way, Machado is solid defensively. Probably going to win a bunch of gold gloves in his career. And then on the other side of the field, you have a little bit of shakiness in defense. Chris Davis, he's not the greatest first baseman. Mark Trumbo, he's an adventure out there in right field, or whoever's going to play out there. I heard they're thinking about putting Pedro Alvarez out in right field and getting him some time just as a way to get his bat in the lineup. So he's been working out at right field pretty much all offseason. That'll be an adventure. You might remember Pedro Alvarez got the yips, which is he could not throw the ball across the diamond, so basically it ruined his career at third base. He moved to first base, and he was also awful. He just could not really field it all. So I feel bad for the guy. Basically ruined his career with the Pirates. They just really couldn't use him in the field, so he had to go to an American League team, which was the Orioles. Still did pretty well. I really root for Pedro. I think he's a good guy. I really want him to do well. I would love for him to hit 40-some dingers for the Orioles this year. Well, it's getting late in the game. It's the 8th inning here, and we're down by 1 run. So the Blue Jays have a pretty nice bullpen. At the back end of the bullpen, they've got Jason Grilly, who's been a former closer for a few different teams, most recently the Braves and the Pirates. He's got a pretty nice wipeout slider. And then they have Roberto Osuna closing games. So if I don't get my act together here, I'm going to be facing those guys soon. Here's J.P. Howell. He's probably just on to face Davis. Did I get that one? No. Thought I might have gotten all of that one, but not really. So that is the final out of the 8th inning, and we're into the 9th. Kevin Gausman is still on. If he doesn't let up any more hits, I'll let him go the complete game. But he's got another out to get. Well, I mean, he almost made it there. It's a little risky to leave him in, so that's a double. I'm going to take him out. I've got some guys warming up in the bullpen. I'm going to bring in Darren O'Day and his funky motion. Darren O'Day is kind of tough to hit against in this game. So I'm hoping that with me pitching with him, they're going to have some difficulty. Oh, that might have been a strike. So he walks him first and second, and that's strike 3. All right, here we go. Last chance. 3 outs left in the game, and here's Roberto Ozuna. He's the Jays closer. Gonna have to get some base runners here. That's not gonna do the job. Almost. Second baseman, who is that? Devin Travis or whoever, kind of took their time. This one might get down. Yes, that's gonna be a double, possibly triple. No, we're gonna keep him there. No point in making an out here. That is the tying run. Jonathan Scope, nice job. So here he is, Pedro Alvarez. He's working down in the minors right now. You're going to see him soon in Baltimore. He's the man, I'm telling you. I'm hoping that all you fans in Baltimore treat him right, because he's awesome. Almost puts the game away here with the home run, but comes up just shy of a dinger. Moves the runner over, and there's 1 out left in the game, and it's all going to come down to J.J. Hardy, I believe. Yep, number 2, J.J. Hardy, and that should do it. That's the game. We lose. Orioles lose. Orioles lose. You could put this one in the L column. Sorry about that, Orioles fans, but I do think you're going to have a decent team this year. 83 to 85 wins, possibly a wild card spot. Please take just a second and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you later.